I want to one day stand up and say, that's my dad. And I'm so proud of him. Today is not that day. But I am sure that one day we will get there. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Book of Brianna podcast. I am your host, Dr. Brianna Whiteside, and today we're going to talk about forgiveness. Now, last week we talked about the importance of forgiving yourself. The week before that, we talked about the importance of forgiving God. But this week, I want to talk to you about forgiving your parents. Now, I know the parent-child relationship gets tricky, especially around the holidays, especially around Mother's Day and Father's Day. And I, too, understand the weight of that experience. And so I'm not talking to you from a place of, just on my high horse and not being able to relate. I am really talking to you about this from a place of I've been there and I've navigated into a new place with one of my parents, and I am journeying through another place with another one of my parents. And so I want to talk about forgiveness because we're talking about forgiveness this month, but that parent-child relationship is one that really needs to be mended and healed, especially as we're thinking about healing generational curse and things of that nature. So before we get started, can I ask you to go ahead and like this video, share it with a friend, and comment if I say something that's really, really good to you. Now, when we talk about forgiveness, we have to realize that our parents are human beings just like us. I don't think that necessarily registered in my brain as I was matriculating through adolescence, as I had come into the early phases of womanhood. Though I knew my mother, and I'm going to talk about this relationship specifically, though I knew my mother was a woman, a human, for some reason, I still saw her as a superhero. Now, if you read my blog on Brianna Whiteside, you saw that I chronicled it a little bit more. I narrate the story for you a little bit more. But there is some type of disconnect that caused me to kind of maybe forget or to just not acknowledge that she is a girl doing life for the first time in her life. She hadn't been through a lot of things. She's doing a lot of things right now for the first time, and also having a lot of first time experiences similar to me. And so it is when I forgot that she was this human being doing a lot of stuff for the first time, where I kind of erected her to the status of superhero. Now, superhero may sound admirable, right? It may sound courageous. It may sound like a good thing, but it's not, because it does not leave room for the humanity. It does not leave room for empathy, because you're always seeing this person as being on or suggesting that they should know this by now and they should know better and they should do this, because you see them through a particular lens. And it wasn't until it was around 2020, but prior to 2020, our relationship was strained. And if you've been watching me for a while, you've been journeying with me, you've seen my mom on the podcast, we had a very strained relationship. She had me at 17, and I could not imagine the 17-year-old me having a child. Like, the most important thing was trying to fit in with the cool kids. I mean, I was working 2 jobs, I was taking college courses, but not trying to keep children alive. You know what I mean? And so when I was, not considering my mother as a human and not holding space for her humanity, I literally created some type of false image of her in my mind. And so our relationship was flawed for a very long time, especially towards the end of my high school years and into my college years. It was very, very strained. Well, fast forward to 2020, we realized, hey, we're in trouble. We had come to an impasse, and the reason why we knew we were in trouble, and some things are blessings in disguises. Do you all remember that story about that guy I told you I was dating long distance in 2019, a little bit of early 2020, the one who cheated on me with another woman? Well, I was dating him, but my mom did not like him at all. She did not like anything about him. I couldn't understand why she didn't like him, but she didn't like him. She had her reasons, and that relationship started to draw a wedge between she and I. And it was the ending of that relationship when I realized, this guy was cheating on me and we could not carry on, that I had to sit with myself in a lot of stuff. And that is when I went to therapy for the first time, because I was literally probably about to go to the streets because I was hurt, right? And I was trying to numb the pain of the hurt. And it is in therapy and doing some of that emotional work, totally unrelated to my mother and I's relationship, that parent wound started to crop up. That mother wound started to crop up. And I was like, Jesus, y'all gonna have to deal with this. God is so good, because At the same time he was convicting me, he was also convicting her. I'm in therapy, she's probably in prayer, but we come to the same realization at the same time. We need to work on repairing our relationship. We need to work on forgiving one another. We need to work on binding, mending everything that had happened, because we don't want to create another generational cycle. My mom has always been vocal that she didn't know if her mother loved her. And that was never my experience. I questioned the expression of the love, like how you're treating me as a result of you loving me. And, love and fear can be two sides of one vicious coin, but I questioned that. I never had to question her love. I just questioned the actions behind the love. My mother's experience was that, and she didn't have a particularly great relationship with my grandmother, and we knew that we didn't want to recreate that cycle, that story in our generation, through our relationship. And so what we did, I continued to go to therapy and she went to Jesus. My mama, she 50 in her 50s, you know how it go. But no matter our chosen avenues, the fact is remained the same. We got the results that we wanted. And so we had to go through a series of hard conversations with each other. And when I tell you they were hard, some of them were blow ups. Some of them were, I gotta go, I gotta talk to you later. Like some of them were, I can't do this right now. It was a lot of confronting of one another. And we both had to admit that we hadn't done things properly. Now that takes maturity. Both people have to be willing to come to the table. You can't mend a relationship if the other person is not willing to get in the ring. And so I am grateful that at that moment, God had convicted her to get in the ring at the same time he was convicting me to get in the ring. We had a series of conversations which lasted felt like months. But not only am I navigating that hurt of she and I's relationship, but I'm also still navigating the hurt of the relationship that failed due to infidelity. And so I'm just a hot mess. I'm just crying. I'm just, falling out. I just feel so broken, so broke down. I don't know if you've ever felt so broken or so broke down, but that is what it felt. Everything was falling apart and crashing apart and things of that nature. And I see that it was actually falling together, but when you're in the midst of that pain, it just feels like it was falling apart. It was through a series of hard conversations with each other, a lot of tears, a lot of apologies, a lot of questions, that I was able to see my mother not as my mother, but as a girl, a woman. And where we met, the common ground that we met on was womanhood. I didn't need to know why the mother made decisions. I needed to know why the woman behind the mother made certain decisions. And it was when I began to learn more about her experience growing up and, the things that she thought and how she felt that if she did certain things with me, then my life would look different. And it does look different, but I wanted to know the why. Sometimes it's not enough to focus on the what if you don't know the why. And it is in focusing on the why that I gained a deeper appreciation for my mother and what was going on. We go through this series of breakdowns, and we had to admit our faults, and then our relationship got better progressively. It did not happen overnight. I need somebody to know that it did not happen overnight. It happened if we started in 2020, it probably we were still learning through 2022. When 2022 came, we had become stronger and we were able to, our fights became less frequent. We enjoyed each other's company more and things like that. So it was a long journey, but we both had to be intentional. And it is in her saying, I'm sorry. I didn't know that this was impacting you. I didn't know that, this was going to do this thing. It was her apologizing. I remember, and I hope I don't tear up. I remember sitting in a diner with her. We went out for breakfast. I was in town for a few days, and we went out to breakfast one morning, and I think we were talking about something hard. And I think, my mother was a strict disciplinarian, and we was talking about whoopings. And I said something like, I didn't need that. Because she had felt like, hey, had her mother disciplined her more, then she wouldn't have been a teenage mom and she wouldn't have made some of the decisions that she made. So as a result, she did that with me. And I was like, but I didn't need that. I wasn't you. I wasn't the same child as you were. I didn't need that. That wasn't who I am. I'm not as hard natured as she was. And so she said, I'm sorry, but I'm here now. I'm sorry, but I'm here now. And that was tough, right? Because she had to listen to me say, yo, that was extreme. Like, I didn't need that. I wasn't the type of child like that. Like, you may have seen some similarities in how you and I operate and, how we behave. You may have seen similarities because I am your child, but I am not you. I was not you. I didn't need that. I didn't need that type of discipline. I needed love. And it was her realizing and admitting that she had erred and she had made a mistake. And she's like, hey, I'm here now. Let me get it right now. And as a result of her wanting to get it right, and me wanting to get it right with her and forgive her, that is how our relationship got better. And now we have a really, really great relationship. But I also want to talk about a situation that I'm going through in real time with my father. You all know I don't really hyper focus on my father on this channel because that is a sore spot for me. And, growing up in a single parent home, my dad chose when he would jump in and jump out of my life. And that was always a tough thing for me to navigate, right? When you choose you want to be a father, you get to choose. So it's like you get a day off. Like, I don't understand it. But that was the thing. That's what ended up happening. And as a result of that and years of begging for him to be in my life and begging him to at least just call me and, show me that I care and that I matter. As a result of him not doing it over time, I just stopped wanting it. Like, he taught me not to want it, taught me not to have the relationship or want the relationship. And so now we're in this situation that is a very tough situation for me because now he's trying to come back around and be more consistent and call. And it just feels so unfamiliar to me. I struggle trying to know, like, do I want the relationship or is this even safe this time? Because so many times in the past he had told me, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. And now it does seem like he's trying to do better, but I'm just like, no. You know what I mean? Like, I don't trust this. I've tried to trust this in the past and you let me down every time. And, I find myself struggling with building a relationship with him because of the history that we have had. And I've had to pray and ask God to help me accept him into my life again. If this is of you, if this is what you want, please help me to let the guard down. Help me to be willing to let the guard down. Help me to want a relationship now. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I never thought I would get to this point where I didn't care if we had the relationship or not. When I was moving all throughout, my life and asking my dad to please be in my life, like I need you, and using those words, I need you. It never crossed my mind that I was going to get to the point where I just felt like, okay, we ain't got to do this. And it's not out of spite or anger. It's just really out of, you've been absent for so long and I have built systems around your absence, right? And now that you want to come back into my life, and I know it's a humbling experience, your daughter is not as open, as flexible, as happy about it. And so it's a very fascinating thing because I remember praying to God so many times, please make my father love me. Please make him show up. Please, like, Lord, show him how valuable I am. And I remember those tearful cries and those tearful prayers and, just wondering why my dad doesn't want me. I remember those moments. And there was sometimes back in my youth where I reasoned that if my father didn't love me and didn't show up for me, then no man would love me and show up for me. And I had to do a lot of healing. I had to do a lot of healing to divorce what my father was doing from what I believed about men. And as a result of doing all of that internal work, I find myself at this point holding my father at bay, though he is trying to re-enter my life. And on the one hand, I do feel bad about it. I do feel bad about it because I don't want to be like that with my parents. I also know so many people who don't have their parents, like someone who was a friend of mine, and we may be rebuilding our relationship. She just lost her last living parent and she's my age. And so I do understand what a privilege it is to have both living parents or even one parent, but I also understand the like why I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Like I think that for so long I had just been letting the little girl dream again and hope again. And now the woman in me is protecting the little girl who her daddy used to tell her he was going to come get her and he ghosted her. And that little girl would be looking out the window and with her bags packed, hoping, oh my God, is he coming down the street? Is he coming? Just looking. And he never shows up. That little girl who was disappointed, who hung on the words of her father, and every time he would let her down, I think that the woman in me has now come into full protection mode of the little girl. And it is a very difficult thing to navigate because I don't want to hold my father at bay. I don't. I want to trust his word. I want to be able to move past this moment, right? No matter how I feel about how he did me, and I'm not the person who will say like, but that's still your father, that's still your mother, no matter what they do. I'm not that person, but I am the person that's like, if we can make peace, let's make peace. And this is something that God is having to work with me in real time about. We have a long road ahead of us, my father and I. And it's because of the long road that I just left with him, the years of hoping and praying and asking him to show up and be with me and be around me and want to just see his daughter, right? Like what's the harm in that? And so I'm navigating that. So on the one hand, while I have completely healed the relationship with my mother, and we have gotten so much better. On the other hand, my father is the relationship that I'm having to work through actively. And, ask myself those hard questions. Do you even want this relationship? Yeah, on some deep level, absolutely. I always wanted to be a daddy's girl, and I never got that experience. So, yeah, maybe I may be romanticizing the experience in this situation. But two, I want one day for my father to maybe walk me down the aisle or to see his grandchildren. Like I would want him to be an active part in their lives. And, it is just this very tricky thing that I'm just trying to navigate in real time. And I don't think that I could come to you and tell you that you have to forgive your parents without telling myself and showing you all the part of forgiveness that I'm actually trying to work through with one of my living parents right now. I'm trying to forgive. I'm trying to, stop armoring myself and stop pretending like nothing is wrong because there is something wrong. And I have to have the courage now to let him back in small doses and allow him to prove himself, just like I allowed him to not prove himself, or to prove himself and show up that he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, like back in the day. Now I have to find the courage to allow him to prove himself that he is a changed person and he is actively trying. And, it's just not a comfortable thing for me. It's not because I think a part of me doesn't want to be let down again. You know how your parents are the people who can sway so much in your life, right? They have so much power over you, whether it's, it may not be as expressed as it used to be when you were a child, but those are the relationships that can get you going. Your parents, and for me, my siblings. And so knowing that, I am trying to navigate how to best put up certain boundaries, but also welcome him into my life in a way that's healthy for the both of us. And so, we do have to do the work of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is about us, right? Freeing ourselves and freeing them from the captivity in our hearts, of our hearts. Yes, you can forgive someone and not have a relationship with them if that's what you choose. But I'm not totally sure that's what I'm choosing. I want to choose peace as much as possible, especially the peace of my heart, but I also want to choose relationships. I also want to choose doing the right thing, which is 9 times out of 10 the hard thing. And so I am navigating trying to forgive my dad in real time. In real time. And I never thought that I would get to this moment. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he gets in his way a lot. But I also know that the white side men have a history of that. So I understand that this is a spiritual thing, right? The white side men, majority of them are not successful. And it can go back to high masonry that is in my lineage on my father's side, witchcraft, high levels of sorcery. It can come through all of that. But the white side men, they're not successful at all. And the white side women, they're largely unmarried. And so you all have heard me talk about generational curses and breaking all of that on my mother's side, but there is also another side, like it's coming at me from every side. But I am committed to doing my part and seeing it through. My prayer for you is that God will soften your heart enough to allow you to forgive your parents if you need to. Maybe you have a great relationship with them and amazing. I love that. Maybe, and I want you to share that love with other people, just not on a holiday. Like, hey, like get out there and share the love that your parents have. Let us see this love, this of relationships between mother and child, because we hear a lot about the bad, but we don't have an equal amount of stories about the good relationships. And, I think the world needs that. And so if you have a fantastic parent or both of your parents are fantastic, let the world see them, share them with the world, because there are people like me who are trying to learn to trust their father again and have already learned to trust their mother again. And someone else may be in that position. So I want to encourage you, if you're watching and you have this amazing story about your parents, it's not a boastful thing. Let the world know. Let the world know. And I'm going to close with this. I know you all may have saw Tim Walz's son, Gus, at the DNC. And that's the Democratic National Convention. And if you didn't, you may have saw a meme or a still image of him. But what I felt was so moving about this is that he's watching his father accept the vice president nomination, and he's watching him from the audience. And when his father tells him, I love you, he shouts out his family. His son gets up and he's crying. He's clapping for his dad. He's like, that's my dad. That's my dad. And some people try to chalk up his emotional response to the fact that he's neurodivergent and that he may be on the spectrum. But I don't think that has anything to do with the realness of human emotion. This boy was proud of his father, who was the vice president pick. No matter how you feel about it, you're seeing family at work here, right? This boy is proud, and he is standing up, giving his father a round of applause and showing, I am proud of this man. This is probably my hero. This is someone who has been in my life. And it's so stupid that some people make fun of him, saying that his response was weird and it was weak. That lets you know that you haven't been loved properly. That lets you know that you're uncomfortable with the realness of intimacy and human relationships, because anybody would be proud of their parent making it to a very prestigious moment in their life. I didn't even know Tim Walz, and I don't know his son. But seeing his son proud of his father and cheer him on brought tears to my eyes, and I'm not even a parent. And that is what I want from my father. I want to one day stand up and say, that's my dad. And I'm so proud of him. Today is not that day. But I am sure that one day we will get there. I hope this has encouraged you. I'm trying not to let my tears fall because I'm about to go somewhere. If this has encouraged you, if this is giving you something to think about, please like the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you need a good life bundle equipped with 2 ebooks, Good Cries and Loving Boldly, please head over to BriannaWhiteside.com and grab this month's bundle. If you're on the mailing list, you do get a discount and preview of the text. And I will see you soon in another installment of the Book of Brianna podcast. Bye.